Welcome to the King Street Cinema podcast. In this episode, we discuss the cult classic Blade Runner and its sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Two cult classics, one, the original, the definitive sci-fi cult classic, if you ask me. A movie that it actually took me quite a while to warm to, but now I absolutely love. I'll be discussing that with King Street's very own James Rowe. And after that, we will be chatting with Dan, the managing director of the cinema. Lots of stuff going on in the next month there. Obviously, mainly we're focusing on these movies, so let's get straight to it. James and me discuss Blade Runner and its sequel.
Kind of nervous when I take tests.
Skin jobs walking the street.
They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
I'm Rachel.
Deckard.
Have you ever retired a human by mistake?
No.
I need the old Blade Runner. This is a bad.
How can it not know what it is?
If only you could see what I've seen.
More human than human is our motto.
What if I go north? Disappear? Could you come after me?
No, you wouldn't. But somebody would.
Too bad she won't live.
I can see you.
Time to die.
Will you help us?
What seems to be the problem? I want more life.
An experiment. Nothing more.
More human than human is our motto.
James, welcome back.
Hi.
As we said in the last episode, more or less the co-host of the show.
Yeah.
And this month we're going to be discussing Blade Runner and its sequel, Blade Runner 2049.
Yes, we are.
The double bill on April the 1st.
That's right. That's when the double bill is. Yes.
Two cult classics. I'd say the sequel's already become a cult classic.
I guess so. I don't really keep up to date with modern cults, classic films, because I think it's too early to say, as you just mentioned. But I guess it must be sort of in that kind of realm.
It's on its way.
Must be.
On its way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 6 years old now, is it? 2017.
17. It was. So yes, 6 years.
old.
Yeah. I remember it being on originally. I remember putting it on.
Yeah.
The first time round. So fun to watch it again. We've had Blade Runner as well, I think.
Yeah. Should we start by talking about the original?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Which
best place to start.
Released way back in 1982.
Yeah.
Was that the year you were born?
That was the year I was born. I don't know what the date of its actual release is, like the, I don't even know what time of year. Was it a summer movie? I don't know.
I'd like to
These
think
are the sort of things we should have been
Yeah.
looking up, but
I'd like to think it was released not in the summer because of all the rain and how dark it is. But it's a well-known fact it didn't do too well on its initial release.
Didn't.
No.
I think its numbers were something like, because I think it was about 30 mil to make, budget. And I
28
think
million.
28 million, close. And then was it like 40 or something million it made back?
Worldwide, 40 million.
So that's a flop. That's a complete flop.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if that was. It's been reissued several times. That might even be included.
Yeah,
that might have made that money back.
Absolutely,
30 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not a hit in any way. Not even critically either. Some people thought it was really good, but it was very mixed. Which is understandable, I think. I mean, a lot of people still to this day say so strange, but it's really not if you think about it. I love Blade Runner. I've always loved it. It's never been a film that I thought, oh, that's a bit not very good, and then it grew on me, which is a lot of people. That's how I know it as being.
Yeah.
But and that's its history. Its history is that.
Yeah.
In general.
So I just backtrack and say my history with it.
Yeah, sure.
I first watched it on video. Would have been over 20 years ago. And it was one of those films that everyone told me, because I was into sci-fi and that sort of thing, that I have to like. It was sort of pushed on me like, this is brilliant, watch it. I watched it, and the first time I watched it, I found it boring. But I will add that I wasn't in the right... It was... I think part of me subconsciously didn't want to like it because everyone told me I would. Right. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And then I thought about it years later, bought the... I don't know what version. I think it was when they released the first director's cut was what I first watched.
Yeah, that would have been when I first saw it as well.
Because it's been about, I don't know,
and that was 92.
Yeah, it would have been around... That would have been that era. I mean, I'd watched it a few years later. And then when there was a double edition DVD came out, I picked up cheap. I watched it, and this time I still didn't particularly click with it, but I thought it looked amazing. The music was amazing, and that's when I thought I fell in a lot of people say it's substance over style.
Yeah.
And then I watched the sequel. I went to see that, enjoyed it a lot. And then I bought the final cut on Blu-ray of the first one, and thought I'd give it another chance. And during lockdown, so it's quite recently that
it's quite a story.
So yeah, I'm going to take up the whole book. Lights out in my flat, sat and watched them back to back, and it was the final cut.
Yeah.
So that might have added to why I enjoyed it more, because it was a different version.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I think the plot is kind of a lot simpler than people think.
I completely agree.
But that's kind of what I liked about it. It's if you just don't overthink it, it's really easy to follow.
Sure.
People like the toy maker character, things like that, I thought were great.
Yeah.
Really got into it, and I went on my Letterboxd, 5 stars.
5 stars.
And
there we go.
it's very rare that I have changed my views on a film.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's to do with my stubbornness. There's lots of reasons. For age, different versions of the film might have really helped.
Yeah.
And that's the version that's shown at the cinema, and seeing that I done in my flat on a TV, this will be on the big screen, better sound, better everything, better atmosphere. I'm well up for it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's great. It's obviously fantastic at the cinema. But I just talking about the versions, the different versions. See, to me, this was always so gimmicky beyond the director's cut. Because to me, there are only really 2 versions of the film. There's the one with the narration, and then there's the one without. And without the ending, which is the happy ending, which is also with the one with the narration, which is the original theatrical cut. Yeah. So it's the theatrical cut and the director's cut that I think are the only ones that truly matter. The ones that came a little bit later are basically the director's cut with like tiny little fragments. Nothing that makes truly enough difference for it to be a different movie.
Do you think that's because it's this cult classic that they know people will buy different versions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really it's typical Ridley Scott perfectionism, which is completely unnecessary. He's not the only director to be like this. There are many, and they generally are, in my opinion, directors that are more, style.
Yeah,
they're more about the aesthetic, the way things look. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I love the film and always loved the film because of how it looked. That's what... Before I saw the film, I saw the still images when I was a kid in magazines and whatever, and I was just like, wow, that looks amazing. Yeah. I know already I'm going to love that film. Now, when I first saw it, in all honesty, as much as I did, like the beginning when there's fire, and it's the landscape of Los Angeles in 2019, which of course is the past now. But back when I was a kid, and like the future, I was just like blown away already. You got the Vangelis music comes up, and it's fantastic. Everything about it is fantastic. And as the film progressed, I became not that bothered about the plot because it didn't really interest me too much. It was very clearly a crime noir type thing.
Yeah.
I'd seen those kind of things. The fact that it's set in the future. With these, these ideas, these really heady ideas, like about, what it means to be human, right? These are very big things. But in the story, in the film itself, it's limited. It's not really what's important. What's important is the fact that it's a crime thriller noir, and it looks awesome.
Yeah.
The interesting stuff, the ideas of what it means to be human. That's secondary, and that's another film. That's something. That's another telling of this that could exist. And to me, Blade Runner was never really too much about that. It's there, it's important, and it's very much in the Rutger Hauer character, of Roy Batty. It's very important. His lot, they want to live, they want to exist, right? And that's the plot ultimately. But that's not what the film is. The film is visual outstandingness. It's just amazing. Just amazing visuals.
You mentioned Rutger Hauer. I think his performance in this is fantastic.
Oh, it's his greatest role. He knows it. He'd always talk about it. He'd always say it's amazing. If we just mentioned that, so you've got Rutger Hauer, who loved the film, loved working on the film, loved being in the film. It was his greatest work. To then Harrison Ford, who hated doing the movie, even though I think it's probably one of his best roles. Not his best, not for certain his best, but one of his best.
Yeah.
But he hated it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a difficult shoot by all accounts.
Yeah.
But when you look at Harrison Ford's career, I mean, apart from the big two, Indiana Jones and Star Wars, this is probably what he's most well known for.
Sure.
Now,
absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah. Certainly.
And it's interesting how it has done well over time and what it's influenced. I mean, it's influenced loads of anime. If you look at, say, Ghost in the Shell,
it's a cyberpunk. It's a cyberpunk visual style that has just you've seen it now a million times, and we'll continue to see it again and again.
One movie that I watched around the same time, just after I'd seen Blade Runner, I think, and I don't think I connected it, or what did I say? Was the 1990s Super Mario Brothers?
Yep.
The look of that
absolutely
is so Blade Runner. We mentioned the score briefly, which is amazing.
It is. I think the score, to me, it was certainly the thing that won me over, though I was already going to be won over. When I first saw it, like I say, when the film begins with the music, it's pounding and it's very... it's got an ethereal quality, yet a menacing and almost... it's very... There's a lot of sort of interesting counterpoint to it that I loved. That it was just wonderful sounding score. And I think I'd heard Vangelis' music previous, so I knew kind of the thing. I think Chariots of Fire, pretty much everyone knows that, even if they haven't seen the film. Which I had already seen the film, and knew the music and loved the music. And so to me, I was already on board with what the soundtrack was going to be like, and it truly does propel the film on. I play the soundtrack regularly still. I think it's a wonderful piece of music. So But visually it works, complements it perfectly, which is wonderful.
So I just want to stress that from what I said earlier, if you've seen it and you didn't think it was great, I've said this before to people before you're even showing it, do give it another go.
Yeah.
Now, a few facts about the film I want to mention.
Yeah.
Do you know who was originally cast in the lead?
Right. Well, so Dustin Hoffman was certainly. They were working on it. We were sort of in development with him. That's for sure.
Which I think...
But I think originally it was... the ideas were for Robert Mitchum.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Which... He got the look. He's got the...
Absolutely. And he's of that time period, when he was younger, of that type of film.
I think both of these actors would have worked. And maybe it would have given it even more of a noir film than it had.
Certainly.
But it's different. It would have been a different film, or certain aspects of it would have been different. It would have been interesting. But almost, I don't think it would be remembered as well, because with Harrison Ford, that when you look at the posters and the imagery, you don't instantly think noir, you think sci-fi.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was one of those actors, I think you would have
I agree.
thought,
I agree. Because his connections, obviously, with science fiction,
Yeah.
Star Wars, yeah.
even though he claims he's not a big fan of the genre.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Well, that's not how it worked.
got to take the work, any mate.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, that's
Yeah.
how it happened. That's how it worked out.
Yeah. And the other thing I was reading, the happy ending, which I'm not sure I've seen, did they not just take a deleted scene or some footage from The Shining?
They do. There's the helicopter shots that are in the beginning of The Shining, when the car's on its way to the hotel. There are shots, dailies that would have been used at that time, which are not in The Shining, but they took that footage and just went, because that looks nice and pretty, which it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a question that was often asked before the second one came out, which we'll talk about soon, Harrison Ford's character, is he or isn't he an android himself?
Yep.
But I think him being in the second one and aging answers that question.
Interesting, isn't it? It's very ambiguous in the end of the film, which is lovely, which is great. It's important. That's I think is important. There is something that Ridley Scott did say, though. He has said that he is a replicant.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
So Ridley Scott has said that, but the screenwriters and producers.
There's something that Ridley Scott did, which was to put the sort of reflection, sort of red tint in the eyes in one scene in Deckard's eyes, and then that's meant to make you go, oh, there you go, he is a replicant. But that's that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Ultimately, I think like any good film, it's left up to your interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
then. I don't know how many years later, over 35 years later, it was 35 years later, the second film.
Is that right? I'm really bad with numbers, so is it?
I think it will be.
Yeah, it is. That's absolutely.
Different director, the guy who done Dune and Arrival?
Yeah, Denis Villeneuve, I believe.
Yeah.
He's a French-Canadian director. Really, he's got a great style about him. You know it's him when if you see one of his films and you've seen one before, a different one, you'll go, oh, that's that guy, because he's visually very, which like Ridley Scott was and still probably is.
Yeah.
Got his look about him. He's done quite a handful of different genres of movies.
Enemy.
Enemy
year.
recently, which is an older one, I think from 2013 maybe originally. I've seen that a couple of times. I love that film. It's brilliant. I think you liked it.
Yeah, I did. I did. Donnie Darko's in it.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
That
Jake
was
Gyllenhaal. That is.
Yeah. But this came out. It got quite a bit of promotion. Ryan Gosling was in it. Not long after, maybe the year after he done La La Land, was it?
I'm not quite. Again, not sure. It would have been around the similar time.
One of the biggest actors in the world, basically, when this came out.
Oh, he was in so many things at that point. I don't really hear about him as much as did sort of 5 to 10 years ago. He seemed to be in almost everything Hollywood that was out. Had him in it.
I think it was a bit overkill, so maybe he's thinking about what he's doing more now.
Maybe,
But he takes over in the lead, who's another replicant.
Yeah.
But he's not a replicant. He's another. Is he a replicant?
Yeah, he is.
I haven't
but
seen
we know that he's sort of His job is to. He's a part of. I can't remember what part. Nexus. Nexus is the sort of the company or whatever and they have different sort of lines of replicant, like divisions.
Because isn't he doing Harrison Ford's job in there?
Yeah, he is a Blade Runner.
Yeah.
That retires, which means kill rogue replicants.
Yeah. And Harrison Ford's back.
He is.
It's a long film, and he doesn't come into it for a good sort of half an hour. I remember.
Well, he's in the final act, isn't he? I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure he's probably about halfway through. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I can picture the scene where you first see him.
I've seen it twice, and the second time was a long time ago. So I saw them, not too long after each other, and that. So I don't remember it so well, obviously, as I do the original film, which I've seen countless times. But I think I did like it. I believe inside myself that I did enjoy the film. I did think it was overly plodding along too long. But I thought there were some lovely ideas in there, and it was very true to the spirit of the original film and also the source material, I think, which is great. You know, so all of that works nicely in sort of its development. And I was worried about its existence for years leading up to a new Blade Runner film. I was very adamantly against the idea and loved the fact that one hadn't come out for so long. And then when it did come out, I thought everything about it just sounded fine. It sounded good. I wasn't unhappy.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's not. Its existence, in my opinion, is fine. Yeah. So it has. What's his name? Jared Leto.
So they wanted David Bowie for that character.
Yeah, which would have been much better. But yeah, so there's that, and I know there's fans. I'm sure he does have fans, but a lot of people do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, just it's annoying when to put him in when he gets to do a funny voice and dress up and everything.
Yeah.
But he's not in it much. So
much like in the Suicide Squad. But I know people, younger people especially, who prefer this movie.
I bet they do.
You know, and it cost 150 million.
Yeah.
It made 267 million.
Yeah, it's not a success.
But critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
Is this what led to him doing Dune, I think, the director?
Yeah. Well, certainly.
And it spawned cartoon series now, there's comics, and there's even talk of a TV series.
Yeah.
So, weirdly, I think if you don't necessarily look at the numbers, overall the film was a success.
Sure. I mean, yes, it's one of those things where it doesn't have as strong as an audience as like a Star Wars or a Marvel, but it's in that kind of world where it's sci-fi, not too heavy, like in the brain kind of stuff. Like you can take that or leave it. It is ultimately like, again, visual. Like it looks great, and that's really what counts.
Dave Bautista's in it, who's brilliant.
He is. Bautista is. He's a great actor. He's a fantastic actor. I mean, coming from the wrestling world, he is certainly my favourite of wrestler turned actor. He's
Alan Hogan.
Yeah. Well, he's it's the first time that. Maybe there are others, but it's the first one that I've seen where I'd say he's a better actor than he is a wrestler.
Yeah.
Because I was never I am a wrestling fan, and I was never overly keen on him as a wrestler.
No, same. Actually,
and he got all the way to the top spot. He got to be world champ, which is like, why would Batista? No, but anyway, that side as an actor, and he only plays a small part in it right at the beginning, but it's still great.
Yeah.
Like it's great, and it sets up the tone of the film perfectly. So yeah, he's a great actor.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a film that basically the fans kind of pushed for years.
Yeah.
And when it came out, the fans themselves were not disappointed.
That's right. Yeah.
And it actually won some new fans, myself included, when you look at it. So it'd be great to see it again on the big screen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the double bill. Looking forward to both of them being on.
Yeah. So. It's one I'm really excited for, and there's going to be more double bills. I think you're aiming to do about one a month. Yeah,
that's the idea. Permitting, depending on the schedule, programming. What's coming up. Because we can only obviously put on as much as is possible within the time and monetary expenditure and all that kind of stuff, or boring stuff, to see if there is, if it's possible. Basically, we will. Have at least once a month.
I'm going to ask you. I think I might have asked you this before, but I'm going to do it again. What would your personal dream double bill be?
I don't know. I really don't. Maybe Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2.
Yes! You've just looked around in my flat and seen a poster of Teen Wolf. Cheers.
I know. In all honesty,
this has got to be 3 or 4.
This is it. Is a double bill allowed to be? Are the films? Can they be loosely connected?
Yeah, that's the best kind of double bill.
Yeah,
I like you done last month. Aliens and Terminator 2. The two James Cameron sequels that are awesome.
Right, so do they have to be like same directors? Could they be
just a theme?
Because I tell you what, I really want to put on Freaked at some point.
The Alex Winter film.
Yeah, the Alex Winter film. And I would love to do that alongside something else that was kind of similar.
Yeah. Freaks, the 30s.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit too.
Yeah.
But interesting. I mean, I wouldn't be against that.
I think Freaks
ultimately.
would work with, even though it's not a great film, Joe's Apartment or something like that.
I mean, that's the thing. So different, slightly different. With our VHS Fridays, which have been mostly, or no, they have been entirely 80s so far. I want to branch that. I would like to branch that out a little bit more to sort of 90s, because that was very much still a time of the video, and there are some great, in my opinion, great cult classics in the 90s, which people don't, in my opinion, don't talk about as much. Favourably, people understand them as cult movies, but they don't think of them necessarily as favourably as they do films from the 80s. And a film like Freaked and other films of that time I would love to see those on put on the cinema. So I don't know, trying to think of something that could double bill with that.
Yeah, it's difficult, but that's maybe that it didn't get a big cinema release. It would be great to see on the big screen. I know Alex Winter came over here last year, and it was shown, one showing, I think, in London.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's a film, those who've seen it remember it fondly. We don't know, we spoke about it, didn't we, on, was it you I spoke with on, I don't know.
It wasn't me, but you did have Volk.
Because I knew you liked it and you'd already seen it. Now,
yeah, that's right,
And the people I showed it to did really like it.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody. It's one of those things. If you like crazy, you like crazy movies with crazy, strange characters and silly humour, then it's really hard not to like it. Really.
Yeah, I mean it's dated slightly, but
sure.
But for a film that's 30 years old.
But I think that's why I'm quite interested in doing some 90s movies, because the 90s doesn't seem that long ago. Strangely enough, but it is slightly now, right? We're talking 30 years and a little bit, right? 2023. At this point, with 30 years all coming up to, and some of those movies are like, wow. Yeah. You go, that just wouldn't play today at all.
Interesting. A few years ago, it was probably during lockdown, I rewatched a lot of The Fast Show, classic 90s sketch comedy, and even though that mocks a lot of dated 70s stuff, like sexism, they mock the Confessions films. In different ways, it's dated as badly. I won't go into what I think is dated, because I do love the show. There's so much in it, I'm going to say, so much of it that comes across quite homophobic.
Yeah, sure.
But back then it wasn't considered that way, and even rewatching One Foot in the Grave recently, there's some stuff like that in it. 90s is an interesting decade, because we were in our teens then, and we thought we were so righteous, and the past was so wrong. And then you look at it now, and we're like,
But you could even, that's absolutely true, but you could even go to the early 2000s and it's still that way. It's amazing to think like how much things really have sensibilities and people's just feelings towards what is acceptable and what isn't has changed quite a lot in a very short space of time. Though I like to not necessarily think of it as, I've used the word acceptable or whatever, I think of it more as like what do young people want? Like that's generally what, I'm sure you could still make a film that is really offensive. It just wouldn't make much money because it's not what most people would want to go see now. Or at least young people. So
and this is why there aren't many comedies at the cinema nowadays, in my opinion. We should probably wrap
up before we get on to that.
But we stayed on topic there because when you watch Blade Runner, there's nothing really that's dated in that respect.
No, because it's not really, like say, it's plot wise and sort of in the politics of it, or if there are any of the time. I mean, if you just think of the early 80s, I mean, to me it feels really 80s, but Ridley Scott at that time, to me, sort of his visual style and his mood is, to me, 80s music video type thing, which, there's a lot of smoke, and all of that kind of thing. And you go, that's of that period, but it doesn't mean that it's dated. Like, you can't enjoy it and watch it.
And that's why it's still here. And, and it is more popular now than when it was released. So,
absolutely.
So anyway, James, thank you very much, and no doubt you'll be back on the next episode.
Yes.
Okay, I'm here with Dan, the Managing Director of King Street Cinema. Just going to really go through what we've got coming up this month, because there's a lot and a few changes, yeah?
There is, yeah. Good to see you again.
And you? Yeah, it's been a month.
Yeah.
Nearly. We've been knocking it out a bit quicker this time.
Yeah.
Because of the changes, really.
That's right, yeah. We've got a lot of very exciting things coming in April. Not least of which is King Street Junior, which is our new Saturday afternoon kids club, essentially, which is launching on the 1st of April with Jim Henson's The Muppet Movie from 1979, which is an absolute classic.
I'd say Orson Welles' best film.
Orson Welles' best film, yeah. Orson Welles, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, goodness knows how many other cameos, yeah. Absolutely sensational. So we're going to be launching with that on the 1st of April. That's going to run for various shows as well throughout the Easter holidays. I'm very excited about that one. We're going to be supporting St. Elizabeth Hospice through that as well. So 10% of every ticket sold will be going to the charity, specifically to their Zest initiative, which supports young adults over 14 who are living with debilitating illness and disease, and makes sure that they're able to live life to the full during that time. So we're very pleased to be supporting that, and obviously, every customer who comes through the doors for King Street Junior will be supporting that. Yeah. We're grateful to the customers who come through the doors for that, and we're very pleased to be able to support St. Elizabeth Hospice through that as well.
That's great. And is that after Easter, obviously a different film every week, is that?
It's a different film every month.
Every month?
Yeah, so once a month. I mean, I'd like to extend that to once every Saturday throughout the month. But we need to see how this first kind of batch goes. So we've got 3 booked in already. As I said, we're launching with the Muppet Movie. Then in May we're doing The Land Before Time, and in June we're doing The Black Stallion.
Two more classics.
Yeah. There are 3 wonderful films there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's going to be, there will be probably 100% of the young audience that is going to come to something like The Black Stallion won't have seen it before.
Exactly.
So seeing it in a cinema is going to be a wonderful experience for them. So I'm very excited to open the doors for that.
Yeah, and it's films that their parents would have grown up with, and if you're a parent and just showing it to them on the cinema is such a different thing than on TV. And a lot of these films aren't even available to watch at home now.
That's it. Yeah.
So this is the way to get your kids into them, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were still these films were made in a time that was still the primary location for seeing films would have been the cinema.
Yeah.
So they were made entirely with that in mind, and that's why the experience of seeing them here is going to be great.
Yeah, and it's about older films at the cinema that were made for cinema and should be watched at cinema. And it's just the right time to talk about Superman.
Yes, indeed it is. Superman the movie, 1978. Warner are launching their centenary celebrations with a new 4K reissue of Superman the movie, and that is from the 7th of April. So again, just in time for the Easter holidays. So we are going to be showing that film on various dates throughout the Easter holidays as well. Again, some matinees and some early evening shows. It's a big it's a big film for them to launch their centenary celebrations. Obviously, there's three anniversaries that they've got with that film. They've got their own anniversary of 100 years. They've got the 45th anniversary of the film itself, and the 85th anniversary of the character.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of notoriety there for that film, and it's been cleaned up, restored. We're going to be showing it in a digital new 4K restoration, unlike the the 35mm version that we showed a couple of years ago now, when just slightly after we reopened.
Yeah, I was at that. That was
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a movie as well that I grew up with. I'm early 40s. It's older than me, but one that I watched so much as a kid. I had the video, and it just doesn't seem to be in the I don't want to say public eye, but it's not remembered as fondly now as, say, Star Wars or even Indiana Jones and other older films. And I think it might have been up until now sort of because they've tried to rebrand it, as in they've done Man of Steel TV series as this sort of thing. They try to push the newer product. There's no real follow-ons. And at the minute, DC are sort of having a rethinking, and there's a bit of a break before I think James Gunn is taken over, and there'll be a new Superman in a few years. So I think that another reason to watch it now is there's nothing else with that character to distract you.
Yeah.
And younger viewers who probably haven't seen it, as much like the kids' films you're showing.
Yeah.
I think they've been missing out. I think I know people in their 20s who've never seen it. And I can't process it. It's mad. I don't know many people who haven't seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
And to me, Christopher Reeve is Superman. I think it's perfect casting.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's getting a big release again, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's it's nice that it's encouraging to see a studio that isn't afraid to trumpet something that's that has gone rightly so, as you say, has gone through a period of time where it's kind of out of fashion. Yeah. It's out of fashion to be nice, you know, and stand up-ish and all of that. So it's great to see, like I said, a studio that is actually willing to stand up for something that, as we said, has over time gone out of fashion.
Yeah, I mean, Superman's not the anti-hero, which is the fashionable.
That's right.
Yeah, but then it's the darker hero. So Batman, dark because his parents died. Superman should be darker. His whole planet died.
Yeah, his whole planet. Yeah, millions of people.
Yeah,
but his entire race, his entire civilization.
But it's such an enjoyable film. Possibly the first. It was one of the first superhero films anyway, but one of the first ones where a lot of the emphasis was on the villain. Gene Hackman's name was above Christopher Reeve's, I believe, in the way that Jack Nicholson's was above Michael Keaton's Batman.
That's right.
Gene Hackman is fantastic in this movie, I think.
Yeah.
The casting overall is superb.
Yeah, I think they could not have got it more right.
Yeah.
I think that everybody, every single actor in every single role was perfectly. It's like they were created just for the roles. The roles weren't there already, and they found them.
Yeah,
it was the other way around almost.
And it's Lois Lane in it isn't the typical of the era damsel in distress.
Yeah.
She's got attitude. She's funny.
Yeah,
she's one of the strongest characters in the film, if not the strongest when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The soundtrack's fantastic. John Williams, iconic.
Yeah.
And is it Marlon Brando's best film? It's up there, isn't it?
If I was 10 years old, 100%,
yeah.
But I mean, that's another thing you talk about, the names being above, with the star of the film essentially being Christopher Reeve, but the pedigree of the other actors involved were what the Salkinds sold the product on and managed to get their investors in, based on those names, Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect because Christopher Reeve was a relative unknown. I think he'd stage work before this. Might have been in a few things, but if it was a big name, say it was was it Robert Redford or someone? The emphasis would be on them, and it would be their movie. I was reading recently that Kevin Costner was up for the Liam Neeson role in Schindler's List.
Oh my
and nearly got it, but then Spielberg decided that they didn't want a big name. And I think I'm not anti-Costner. I enjoy some of his films, but he was too big a name at that time for that role. Maybe nowadays, his career's not what it was.
Yeah,
it was
or there's a different kind of pedigree that he has.
Yeah,
which would lend itself better to now to that kind of role. Yeah, you're right.
I don't think they've ever had a big name play Superman. Thinking about it,
no, and I think that's the right thing to do. There's too much baggage.
Yeah,
if you do need somebody who an audience can completely accept as the suit, essentially, because and if you've got a recognisable head on top of that suit, all you're going to be seeing is that head.
Yeah, I mean, it nearly happened with Nicolas Cage, the Tim Burton.
That's right. Yeah,
which would have been, in my opinion, fantastic, but I don't think it would have worked.
It would have been an interesting experiment, I think.
Yeah, but then saying that, I mean, you put Nicolas Cage in anything and I'd love it. But yeah, so that's another big one, and much with the King Street for Juniors, it's one that I think bring the next generation along to see. It's I'm not as anti reboot and remake as I used to be, but I'm so glad I grew up watching older films, and I think it's the perfect opportunity for kids to come along and see it. One thing, I watched so much TV as a kid, and TV was different then. You Saturday afternoon, if you weren't out, you was watching what was on, and it's not so much like that with films now.
That's right.
And I do think a lot of the younger generation are missing out on what came before.
Yeah, I think it's knowing. I mean, we all do it, don't we? We all don't necessarily pay attention to the building blocks of what the thing that we grow up with, because everything comes from somewhere else, doesn't it? But I do think specifically now there's a speed with which things are thrown at people that doesn't help with anybody's patience. And a film like Superman the movie it requires. I mean, it's enthralling and it's engaging and it's totally fulfilling by the end of it. But it requires an investment of you as a viewer, from the very beginning, because it doesn't start with, fast chasers and all this other stuff. It requires a slow, a patience.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the formula of Marvel films now. There's not that action scene at the beginning, little bit of plot, action in the middle, bit of plot, action end. It's a definitive origin story movie, really. But yeah, well worth seeing, and there's several showings of that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and as we've alluded to before in our conversation, it's cinematic. So the place to see something like this is the cinema. Yeah,
and I did come. It was 2 years ago, was it? And I'll definitely be seeing it again. And it's one I probably have had a VHS, a DVD, and I've got a Blu-ray, but I'm still coming to the cinema to see it because it's just the way to see it. It's Superman. You will believe a man can fly.
That's it.
So it's exciting. What else have you? A few other older.
I mean, speaking of restorations, we are bringing Krzysztof Kieslowski's Three Colours trilogy back to the cinema throughout April. This is courtesy of a new 4K restoration from the good folks at Curzon. These all three films. They're extraordinary. a trio of films about love, loss, human nature, pride, betrayal, all these kind of, all these basic human traits. Just extraordinary films, and they're all, they're all very succinct as well. They're all like 90, 95 minutes.
Yeah.
So they're very accessible, and just infinitely rewatchable, I think. And they look absolutely fantastic now. These restorations, the Curzon restorations, which I think come from the Criterion restorations, are beautiful. So if you haven't seen them, this is the time to see them.
I mean, I've been aware of them for a very long time. Were they 1990s?
Yeah, early 90s.
Early 90s. Been aware of them for a very long time. Never seen them, although I have every album by the band Three Colours Red. And well, that just shows that the impact of these films. There was a band named after one of them.
That's it.
Which was around they were 90s, so around the time.
Yeah.
Iconic films. I can picture the posters in my head from the time, but I've never seen them.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get to them. Is it a continuing trilogy story, or is it you can watch one?
They're you can watch one without the other, but by the end of the third one, I probably shouldn't.
Don't want to spoil.
I don't want to. But
it helps if you watch them all.
Yeah, I think they will be. It would be very fulfilling if you were to watch, if you weren't to dip in and out.
Yeah.
And you watched all three of them. They're great films. I can't wait to show them.
Yeah.
Two, we're doing one a week.
Yeah.
With there's 1 week where we couldn't do them on consecutive weeks, so there's 1 week in between the first and the second, but it's a Friday night and a Saturday night, so you've got two nights to see them, to see each one. So very much looking forward to. I'll be watching those here as well.
Yeah.
First time I saw them were here.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. That's something else I'm going to have to.
Yes, that's right.
Get off work for.
I probably should mention as well the our classics. The ticket prices for our classics now all start at £6.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if it's an afternoon or if it's a Friday night or a midweek. It's all they all start at £6. Different variations on top of that, but
yeah. I did for the first time sit in the luxury seats for Babylon.
Okay.
And
did you like those seats?
Very comfortable. I enjoyed it. It was only £1 more, so I was like, "This is good."
Okay.
Yeah. And normally I go for rowy, and I've just got my seat, but I will be in the luxury seats more often. I think so. Yeah, I've treated myself. So also we did mention, but kids' prices. The kids' matinees are cheaper for them.
That's right. Yeah. King Street Junior prices start at $4.50. A little bit extra again for the back row.
Yeah.
And if you're a member, you get the £1 off that ticket price, so it's $3.50. So they're
there's a
decent prices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Can't argue with that.
No. And we've been waffling. But what else have we got coming up this month? We didn't mention that there isn't a VHS Fridays.
There isn't a VHS Fridays in April yet.
But I think the fact you've got Blade Runner and Superman more than make up for that.
Yeah, that's right. They do. VHS Fridays will be back in May, the beginning of May. But we can't talk about what the film is at the moment.
We'll probably focus on it once we know the next episode. What else have we got coming up in April?
Well, we've got April is it's a really good month. We've got fewer films than March, so we're giving all these films a little bit longer to breathe. but they're all extraordinarily exceptional films. I could start with, if I start with Loving Highsmith, which is a documentary about Patricia Highsmith. Her life, her personal life, and her writing, and how her personal life affected her writing and influenced her writing. The documentary is told through, her family and her friends, her lovers, and it's a very, very tender portrait, I think, of a very good author, and that is showing from the 14th of April. And on the 14th of April, we're having a live on-stage introduction of the film with Andrew Marsh from Dial Lane Books and Jill Lowe from Suffolk Book League. So they'll be introducing the film on that night. So I encourage everybody to attend on that night. It's going to be running all week, but to get that live on-stage introduction, you need to be here on the opening night.
Yeah.
Very much looking forward to that one. Other films, new releases that we're doing, God's Creatures, which is a fantastic Irish film starring Emily Watson and Paul Mescal. Everybody knows Paul Mescal from After Sun, which did very well in January. So if you liked watching him in After Sun, this is definitely one for you. Yeah. We're also doing Lucas Dant's debut feature, which is Close, which is it's one of the most, astounding debuts that you're ever likely to see. Beautiful film, all about friendship, and the outside forces that affect friendship. So that's wonderful. That's at the beginning of the month. Léa Mysieu's The Five Devils, which again is brilliant. It's a fable, really, about this young girl who can travel through time, essentially, through memory and scent, and it's how that then her aunt comes back on the scene into this family life and starts sort of opening up old wounds, I think, and through that, this young girl then experiences the past and where those wounds came from and how they've affected present day life, and it's a fantastic film. Yeah. Fantastic. Helena Palmerson's Godland we're doing as well, which is the director's third feature, and that's set in 19th century Iceland, which is a breathtaking. The photography is breathtaking. The performances are all wonderful. They're very understated. Astounding. An astounding film.
So I've gone quiet because these are films I've not heard of.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I'm listening like, okay, cool. I'll be on the IMDb after.
Yeah. I mean, Godland is about the Danish church who sends this priest into Iceland to set up an arm of the Danish church in Iceland, and it's essentially about his journey through Iceland, through this unforgiving landscape, to this town where he's supposed to set this church up, and it's so good. It's so good. I want everybody to come and see this one.
Yeah.
I should mention as well, this special mention to Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool, which we're doing at the end of April, which I have not seen yet, but I'm very much looking forward to. I liked Possessor. We were originally scheduled to show Possessor actually, but that was when our reopening plans were scuppered, so we ended up not being able to show it. But
I've heard, being a horror fan, I've heard really good things about both. And Possessor, I bought the Blu-ray of.
Right.
And I think if his work's like his dad's, you've got to be in the mood.
Yeah, very much.
So I still haven't watched it, but what I'll probably do is watch it just before Infinity Pool.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's Mia Goth in Infinity Pool, who's a big name at the moment.
Yeah, she is. Yeah,
lots of things.
X and Pearl,
and
the next one, which actually I'll jump ahead slightly with this because the next one, which name I can't remember. The third one in this trilogy of.
I should know the name of this, but this is the final part.
Yeah, which is all very VHS based.
Yeah.
So I would very much like us to do kind of a mini weekend based around the VHS Fridays at some point for those.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Maria, is that the name of it? Maxine, something like
Maxine, that's it. Yeah.
Because X was a film that I just, being a horror fan, I just went to see and thought it would be okay, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's the film which I think has elevated her into a star opposed to a good character actress or actor, whichever the phrase is. So Infinity Pool there's a lot of hype about that, and I'm very excited to see that. And I've heard, because it's been out in America, I believe, a while, and I'm hearing really good things.
Yeah,
from not that I listen to other podcasts, but the ones I've heard.
They listen to us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hi Maria. I'm excited, very excited for that one. And so anything else we wanted to mention? We've waffled on for about half. We'll say waffled. It's been very interesting.
Yeah, we don't waffle.
So it's been a different episode this month, because normally it's focused around the VHS. Obviously we talked a lot before we spoke about Blade Runner. But one thing I do want to say, that you mentioned there's less films in April and March. A lot of that I think is because you've shown a lot of the Oscar nominated films again. And I haven't been back because I saw a lot from the first time around here. Basically, you've done well last year. You showed so many films that were up for Oscars that basically people come and see the films first time around, because it's quite funny. Even a film that I'm guessing you might have been unsure whether to show or not, Elvis.
Yeah.
Nominated for quite a few.
That's right.
Everything Everywhere All at Once obviously has gone on to be the success of the year. And a few other films that you're showing again because of this.
Exactly. Yeah. We didn't. Elvis was the one big Oscar nominated film that we didn't show last year when it came.
Did you not show? I thought you did. Sorry.
But we did all the others.
We
did Banshees of Inisherin and Everything Everywhere and something else. We didn't do All Quiet on the Western Front.
No.
But
that didn't. I don't know if I saw that was anywhere.
I think it was again a Netflix that was allowed a limited release in order for it to qualify for Oscar nominations. And as it received all the Oscar nominations that it did, a reissue was then inevitable.
Yeah.
So
and worth seeing. It's too late now, but I saw it on the big screen here, and it was great. Not uplifting, great, but one of the best war films I've seen in recent years. I'm not a big war film fan, if I'm honest, but it held my attention for 2 hours 20 minutes, and it made you left the film really thinking.
Absolutely, and that's again, it was a cinematic film. So the place to see it is a cinema.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I suppose the other thing I could mention is our music nights for April, which is In the Court of the Crimson King, which is a band I'd never heard of, Crimson King.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of them. But the film is fantastic, and is hovering at 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes if you put stock in Rotten Tomatoes. I'm looking forward to that. We've sold a number of tickets for that already. We're showing that over 3 nights instead of just one. That's going to be great. It's going to be a great few nights. So I think in looking at, we've gone very red, white, and blue in April. We've caught the Crimson King, 3 colours trilogy with red, white, and blue. Superman, red, white, and blue. Yeah, so we've got a theme for April.
So bring your flags.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's good. There's such a wide range. You know, we've got the classics, some newer films, and I read the film magazines. I'm on the websites all the time, and there's films that sort of gone under the radar for me. And you just talking about them, going to look these films up and try to get down here as much as possible, as ever. But it's difficult. But there's a range of stuff, and just talking to people where I work and this sort of thing. Oscar has made people think about films again. It's that time of the year, and more people seem to be picking up your flyers, and hopefully they may have come to see some of the films that they've seen on their TVs because of Oscar, and then be like, "Oh, this is a nice cinema. That's come." But it's exciting stuff. We were not going to mention, because you're not 100% yet for the VHS Fridays for next month, but the next episode will probably focus around whatever that is. That was a strange noise. I don't know if that recorded that. That was,
maybe it did.
That's that a sign for more horror films.
Somebody rattling something somewhere.
But I think it was probably best wrap it up. But thanks for your time.
It's been an absolute pleasure again, as always.
And this will be the bit where I turn the microphone off, then try to get more answers out of you of what's coming up. And that look of, you've just looked at me like I'm not telling you nothing. But Dan, thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks to Dan, thanks to James, thanks for everyone for listening. We'll be back in about a month for a next episode where we'll probably be focusing mainly on that movie for the VHS Fridays. We're not too sure what it is, but I've got an idea what it could be, and if it is that, I'm very excited. Usually it's something I get excited about anyway. I love talking about old movies, and it's so great to see them on the big screen. We'll be updating everything on our Facebook and Instagram, so find us. That's King Street Cinema Podcast. Find it on both of those. Obviously follow us on Spotify. If you want to give us a 5-star review, that would really help, and that helps get the word out, apparently, that the higher review ones get pushed more, I think. I don't know. But please share. And also, you do another podcast called ACM's Vault of Cult, where I discuss films that didn't do so well and haven't actually really become cult films that I think should be films I grew up with loving. I show them to people who haven't seen them before and see if they think the same, or see if nostalgia has just made me think they're great films. My name's been Andy. Be back very soon. As I say, thank you all very much.